Hey everybody, this is Avani from Hatchcraft Heirlooms, and I am here this week. We're going to be talking about the mystery of the winter moon, which is why we have all these pretty snowflakes happening on Instagram right now. But while we get started for everyone to show up, usually I do a little something extra in the pre-show just to kind of, keep everybody happy while we wait for more folks to show up, because it takes time for the algorithm to kind of reach out its little fingers and find everybody who might be interested in watching. I'm also going to open up another tab here because I've been forgetting to do that a lot lately. But in our pre-show, we're going to talk a little bit about Lunar New Year because that's today. Today is Lunar New Year, and I thought that it would be a good opportunity to talk about the traditions associated with it. Part of the story here is that originally, this week I had planned to do a whole Artemis theme, which is of course also the moon, because I had read on some calendar somewhere that Artemis's feast day was today, and it turns out that it's not, because I couldn't find that anywhere else on the internet. So thankfully, it just so happened that Lunar New Year happens to also be this week. So I kind of did a little bit of a switch, so I have a little bit of a Lunar New Year / moon theme happening this week. Hey Elle, again, if you're here watching, hashtag live, hashtag replay if you're watching on the replay. We're going to be talking about Lunar New Year here in our pre-show. And then do all the fun things to do at the end, of course. And I'm glad you made it here at the beginning, because I know sometimes the notifications get funny and people don't see them in time. But you're here. So that's yay. Elle says, I'm here live, I need to run out and we'll miss the end. Oh, well, that's sad. Well, real quick, because I think you're the first one here, let me show you the extra item. So this extra item that I'm going to be including in my live sale at the very end, it's actually not in my shop. It's a brand new item that I haven't listed. This is the first time I've ever doing that. But I picked it out because it was an item that originally I thought to myself would be really, really great for a moon-themed drop. But it turns out finding moon-themed things is really hard. But it is silver, which means that it is technically part of the sale that's happening today. So I could still give you guys a special discount on it. This is actually a Turkish coffee cup. You can see it has this beautiful little moon on the top of it. So when you open it, it has a little porcelain cup inside. It's not attached or anything. Normally I would list that, I'm going to put that away, I don't want to make people see it, but normally I would list that for $28, but I was going to offer it today for $22 plus shipping, because that has the sale price that's happening right now. So if you're interested in it, you can just put sold in a comment, again, because I don't want you to miss out. That was the extra thing that I'm sure that you really wanted to see. But that said, we're going to talk about Lunar New Year while we wait for folks to show up. I see Brooke is here, I see that Sandra's here. Let me wave at you guys, I haven't done that yet. Waves, waves, waves all around. And especially if you're here watching on the Facebook, please throw a hashtag live into the comments, or even obviously if you're on Instagram. Also, just because, especially on Facebook doesn't tell me your names when you show up, and I very much would like to get to say hi. So let's talk about Lunar New Year before I babble anymore. So today is Lunar New Year. I believe it's today or tomorrow. The point is it's happening soonish, maybe today. You'll take it sold. Wonderful, I'm glad. It is yours. We will put that together with the candle from earlier this week. Usually, we call it Lunar New Year here. Some people call it Chinese New Year. The folks that actually live in Asia that tend to celebrate it today, Sandra says today, thank you for the clarification. For the people that tend to celebrate it, they actually, natively, people in Asia, they actually often call it Spring Festival, because Lunar New Year for them is really the very beginning of spring, much like how we celebrate Imbolc as the beginning of spring. And the whole point of Lunar New Year, I should say, that's maybe the wrong way of putting it, but one of the main themes of Lunar New Year is the idea of getting rid of all of the old from the year before, and of course, bringing in good luck and good fortune and abundance and prosperity for the year to come. So all the I call it magic, but all the traditions and practices that are a part of Lunar New Year are really geared toward that goal. So Lunar New Year is actually a 15-year long festival. 15-day long festival, and it's actually capped on either side, so at the very beginning and at the very end, with what's called a reunion feast and a lantern festival. So the lantern is one of the symbols that we often think of when we think of Chinese or Lunar New Year or Spring Festival, depending on how you want to call it. Some other things that tend to happen as a tradition that happen commonly during Lunar New Year celebrations is they have lots of parades. I don't know, I haven't heard about it from them yet because I had to get this live stream started before I got to talk to them, but I know that my youngest school-aged kiddo, who's in first grade, was actually having a parade at school today for Lunar New Year, and I think I heard something about a teacher dressing up as a lion, which is super fun. So usually there's either a dragon, people dressed as dragons and or lions, I should say, in these big parades, and you get these are gigantic, elaborate costumes. Oh, Melissa here says replay. You're actually watching live. This is not a replay. You're here, so you can throw in a hashtag live. She says I'm so sweet and funny. I'm glad she thinks so. I'm just being me, and making all sorts of mistakes along the way, like everybody else. So the dragons, I was going to say they're massive costumes. They've got multiple people inside of them that are controlling it, and you get this sort of rippling effect of, the dragon dancing around the entire parade route, which is really fun and really beautiful. If you've never seen what it looks like before, I highly recommend Googling it to see pictures because it's really cool. Another tradition that's really popular is that they will give out, usually older family members to younger family members, these red envelopes that actually have money in them often. They're usually given to people who are younger, who are unwed specifically. So the red envelope in particular is also a really big symbol of Chinese New Year. If you look in your, this is interesting, I didn't realize this thing. If you look in your phone on your emojis, there is an actual emoji that is a little red envelope with a yellow dot on it, and it's actually for Chinese New Year. So that's such a popular symbol, and I guess maybe I'm just uncultured, but that's a thing. It's a thing that's there, and that's why it's such a big symbol of Lunar New Year. And the other thing that's really popular is that they do fireworks to ward off evil spirits. So the idea of bringing in blessings but also keeping away all of evil is sort of the big overarching theme. Sandra here says that we have a festival in Chinatown, but not this year. We have a winter storm. And I'm sure the pandemic probably would have put a big damper on it too. But that's really cool. I don't live I live close to Hartford, but Hartford isn't really, they want to be, but they're not really cultured. Oh my god, it's pretty bad. But it's not like a cool city like Boston or New York City, which I'm sort of equidistant from in either direction. So I don't think that we have one of those in Hartford, although maybe we do. Maybe I just have no idea. But that's really cool. So definitely a really beautiful kind of tradition and really beautiful imagery, absolutely. And if you get the chance to kind of check one out, I'm sure it's a lot of fun. But some superstitions that have to do with Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, Spring Festival, again, whatever you want to call it, are very similar to a lot of the traditions that people talk about having for our, Western New Year, usually, end of December, beginning of January. And they include things like no crying allowed. No one's allowed to be emotional. There's no crying at New Year's. There's no crying at New Year's. Bonus points if you get the reference. And so people aren't allowed to be angry or even sad. People are supposed to put on a face and be happy the whole time. It's a good day. It's also a tradition that you should pay back your debts from the year prior, so you don't have any outstanding debts going into the new year. And they also say that you should not cut your hair on Lunar New Year, interestingly, because they believe that it can symbolize the idea of cutting connections, especially with family members. And, family is a very... baseball, that's right. It's from A League of Their Own, which is actually one of my favorite movies because it was one of my mom's favorite movies. So I watched it a lot growing up, and I love A League of Their Own. But I digress. So no cutting your hair, and actually there's some places I saw that suggested that you shouldn't use scissors for any reason at all on Lunar New Year because of the association with severing connections to things that you probably wouldn't like to. I guess unless you really want to sever connections to things. I'm sure there's been some rebellious folks that have done that, but it's generally considered taboo to use scissors for anything on Lunar New Year. And they always say that you should always wear red. Red is a big color associated with Lunar New Year. Wearing it, having it in your hair, putting it on your face. Red is the color of good fortune and luck and good health. So red is a big deal too. And then finally, no laundry or even washing or doing chores of any form at all whatsoever. They believe that washing can actually wash away all of the good luck. So no washing. It's a great excuse to do as little as possible. So there is that. So that's what I have for Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, Spring Festival, whatever you like to call it. If you celebrate, let me know in the comments if there are traditions that you like to follow for Lunar New Year, because you follow the lunar calendar as a witch or a pagan. Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. Questions, comments, always, again, as a reminder, this is not supposed to be the Ivani show. This is supposed to be interactive. So if you have comments, if you have questions, let me know. I want to hear from you. It's supposed to be back and forth, not just me, blabbing at you. So throw it out there. We want to hear your voice. But let's talk about what you all came here for, and that is the mystery of the winter moon, which is why I'm wearing gray and my big fluffy sweater today and my moon. And you can't tell, but there is Artemis on this really pretty resin necklace I have here. And I didn't have a pentacle on my body today because of these earrings, so I put them on my ears instead, because I like to always have one, sort of like a walking protection symbol all the time. These earrings are super fun. I got them on Wish, believe it or not, so go check it out. They might still be there. But anyway, the mystery of the winter moon. Here we go. So this is something I wrote, just a little quote. It says, "If nighttime and the darkness are synonymous with the sacred feminine, then the winter moon is the most deeply feminine energy that we can tap into." Winter and the crone or the dark goddess are very much associated with one another in the mythology, in stories, in folklore, just everywhere, pretty much across the board. And I think a lot of that has to do with, the feminine being associated with the unknown, with the void, being the creatrix, being both the womb and the tomb where life both ends and begins. We are the sort of keeper of those in-between liminal spaces where things are breaking down and not yet dead, or being created but not yet born. And that is often symbolized by the dark. And the dark, being the darkest time of the year, is often associated with wintertime. Those associations probably seem obvious, but must be said anyway because of what we're talking about. So Samhain through Beltane, so Samhain being, approximately October 31st to Beltane is May 1st, is generally considered to be the dark half of the year. That's based on an ancient Celtic calendar where they had only 2 seasons. They had winter and they had summer. So Samhain to Beltane was winter, and Beltane to Samhain was summer. That was it. 2 seasons. And the dark half of the year was generally given, so to speak, to the dark goddess. If we're talking Celtic mythology, that would be, I believe, Caradwyn. I actually don't work with Celtic deities too much, so strike me down if I'm wrong. I may be. But winter is usually considered to be a time of withdrawal into the self, a time of contemplation and introspection, and meditation. And as a result of it being associated with wintertime, and the wintertime being associated with the crone and with the dark goddess, all those things become considered very feminine sort of spiritual practice, things that are passive, I guess is a word that people might use. Not to say that women, of course, cannot be aggressive and, active. It's just that spiritually speaking, not even religiously, but spiritually speaking, oftentimes the two are put together. So the thing about, I also wanted to touch note here on, I don't think I wrote it on here, but because I think I was just like, I'll just say that out loud. So I've mentioned this in my group a few times. So if you're in it, you might have heard it before, but I'll say it again here because it's something I actually feel really strongly about. I believe that, it's funny because witches in general are all about the idea of like syncing your life to the moon, the full moon in particular, especially as it comes to our menstrual cycles and bleeding. And witches get all excited about the idea of their cycles sort of syncing to the full moon. I'm of the opinion that the new moon is actually much more deeply spiritual. It's dark, it's gritty, it's raw, it's much more feminine. To me, I think about the moon and what a full moon is. The full moon is the entire face of the moon reflecting the sun's energy. So of all the moon phases, the full moon's actually the most masculine of all of the phases of the moon that is possible. Even if you think about it in terms of like the maiden, mother, crone, the full moon being the mother. The mother exists because the mother has been inseminated by a man. So I think that the dark moon, the new moon, is much more feminine, much more raw. So when you pull everything all together with the winter and the dark goddess and the feminine, it's this very strong feminine energy that you can work with. And the new moon, it says here, Elle says, I like the new moon because it's the start of the moon cycle when you have nothing but possibilities ahead. Absolutely. Hey, DXN. 89156. We're glad you're here. We're talking about the mystery of the winter moon today. I was just going to talk about, so the February new moon was actually, Sandra says, new moon you plant your seeds, intentions, and full moon you harvest. Yeah, absolutely, that's totally true. If you're talking about agriculture, of course, metaphysically speaking too. And Elle says the full moon is more of a kick in the butt that you don't have much time left and it's more stressful to me. I can absolutely see how that is. Because again, like they were saying, Sandra said, full moon is for harvesting. It's sort of like, you need to, get all your P's and Q's in order so you can do the harvest and do all the cleanup afterwards. It's sort of like, if we kind of make it synonymous with the seasons, the dark moon is winter and the full moon is sort of like summer moving into fall and winter's around the corner, so you're trying to get ready for winter, and that can be a little intimidating. I can see how that could absolutely be the case. So the February new moon officially was last night, but we're still in the new moon energy right now. Usually it's considered that the night of a moon phase and then the night before and the night after, you can kind of still tap into that same energy. A lot of people will refer to the first night as the maiden night, the main night, as in last night, as the mother night, and the final night as the crone night. So tonight is the crone night of the new moon. Obviously, there's lots of nuances there that I don't want to get into, but if that's something you subscribe to, that's a thing to think about too. So tonight is the crone night of the February new moon, which is, I believe, in Aquarius this year. But the February new moon in particular is associated with purification. So a few weeks ago I did my live stream about Imbolc and talking about how the word February actually has its etymology in Latin, and februar actually means purification. So the month of February is all purification energy, the idea of sweeping out the old and bringing in the new. So it's a great time for cleansing and facing all of the shadows that you've been working with over the winter, and kind of doing all of that wrap-up work so that you can move into, the next year, with a clean slate, so to speak. It's a good chance to address any issues that you haven't addressed yet. Things that you've been kind of like, well, I'll get to that eventually. Oh, I'll get to that before springtime. For sure, but you've been kind of putting it off. Now is the time. February, especially the second half of February, is the time to be making those things happen, just based on the energies that are going on, and then of course just the pure fact of the matter that spring is around the corner. So you're running out of time. And the other thing too is that right now in this particular February new moon, it's also in the middle, smack dab, of a Mercury retrograde. Elle says here that she wants to hear the rest, but she has to run. You'll catch it on the replay. Wonderful. I look forward to it. Feel free to include comments when you do that. I will see them. If you watch it on Facebook, I'll see the comments after. And if you have anything you want to add, you can DM me if you have any questions. So take care, and I hope you have successful luck with your errands. So in the middle of a Mercury retrograde, so we're talking about the idea of getting rid of the old to bring in the new. It's also a good time to sort of air your grievances, which is another thing that I talked about recently. I was talking about the art of virtual storytelling, which, if you can go back and you can rewatch that on my IGTV channel, if you're watching on Instagram, or you can also watch it on my YouTube. But that's another thing that I feel like February is big vibes for, is airing of grievances, the art of virtual storytelling. Kelly is here live. Hey, Kelly. So glad you made it. I feel like I miss you live a lot, so I'm glad you made it. So another thing too is, because we're in the middle of Mercury retrograde, if you are looking to air grievances and purify yourself in that way through expressing words, it is a retrograde. Be careful. Be on your guard. Maybe write it down first. Make sure you have bullet points. Just maybe don't. Sandra says you caught my story this time. I'm glad you made it. I know that sometimes your notifications come a little late, but you made it today, so we're glad that worked out. And then, of course, our February full moon that's coming up is going to be at the end of the month. I believe it's the 28th, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to double check, and the app is on my phone, which is currently being used right now, so I can't look it up, so you'll have to double check that for me, but I think it's the 28th. Again, if you're here watching, throw a hashtag live in the comments, hashtag replay if you're watching on the replay. It looks like I've got 3 people on Facebook, and I only see 2 people in the comments, and I would love to say hello to the mysterious third person. So the February full moon is considered the quickening moon, the storm moon, or the snow moon most commonly. I'm a big fan of, I like the quickening moon and actually all of them make sense. The quickening moon because the snow is starting to melt, the ice is starting to melt, the weather is very slowly starting to get a little bit warmer. But we also have like a plethora of snowstorms at this time of year. Like, I don't know about where you guys are at, but where I am, we've had like a handful of snowstorms in like the past like 2 weeks. It's like insane. So suddenly we actually have like a cover of snow on the ground. So, yeah, snow moon makes a lot of sense. And I think when they're talking about the storm moon, they're referring to snow storms. Obviously, I can only speak to my locale. If you live somewhere else in the country, I would love to hear how you feel those words work for where you are. Kelly says that she loves that her birthday's in February. I'm happy that your birthday's in February too, because, you're super awesome person and I love hearing from you. And actually, I have two technically sibling-in-laws whose birthdays are in February. So, and also Aquarius folks too. So, that makes me happy as well. I don't know anybody else who is other than you. You, Kelly, and then Lennon and Emily, who are both two siblings / sisters-in-law. So, going back to the February full moon, it says, I made a little note here, hey Kayla, Lucy, we're here to talk about the mystery of the winter moon. Right now we're talking about the February full moon coming up. But in Western Europe, this particular full moon was considered to be a cycle of birthing new lambs, which makes sense. We just kind of got through in bulk, so we're still kind of in that. Oh, Kelly says she's a Pisces. Yes, of course, there's a little bit of a crossover there. So Aquarius / Pisces. Where was I? Oh, having just passed through in bulk, we still have the lambs and the lambs getting pregnant, the lambs lactating, the whole thing. But it's the first tangible sign in a lot of, especially agrarian cultures and societies. It's the first obvious sign that though there is an upcoming abundance of food, a good growing season coming ahead. The idea that the wheel of the year is still actually turning, even if you can't see it in the weather patterns. That is still coming, that the cycles are still happening. But it's a great time of year for seeking visions, for planting metaphorical seeds for the year ahead. And if you're looking to tap into winter moon magic in particular, and if you joining us a little bit late, we were talking earlier about how the winter moon is really one of the most deeply feminine energies that you can tap into. And if you want to go back and watch more about why and how, that is my personal opinion, you can totally do that, because this will get posted to my IGTV channel and to my YouTube after I'm done recording today. But the winter moon, if there are some things you want to tap into for winter moon energy, here are some ideas and things you can do. Collect snow on the full moon, sort of like having moon water, except it's already out there waiting for you. Bonus points if it's actually white. But it can be really great to use for cleansing and purification. You can put it in the wash water for all of your spring cleaning, and you'll get the kind of energy of the winter moon in the cleaning and in the work that you're doing, and be able to put it into your spaces that you work in. You can also do scrying work with water that comes from melted snow. If you're not familiar with the idea of using water for scrying, usually it's done in a silver or even better black bowl, and you fill it with water, and you sometimes people do it by candlelight or by moonlight, but it's usually dim lighting, and the idea is you just sort of gaze softly into the surface of the water, which is very reflective, especially if it's in a black bowl. And look for imagery, and the images often symbolizes things or can mean things, and used for divination in that way. And of course, and obviously, again, we're talking about the day of Lunar New Year. Hey, Lauren and Shannon, we're here talking about the mystery of the winter moon today, talking about ways that you can tap into the winter moon energy. Obviously, if you're doing water scrying with melted snow, some things that you might want to look for in your scrying might be visions or inspirations for the year ahead, because again, we're still kind of in the middle of what is sort of like sort of New Year season in various cultures, depending on who you talk to. And of course, also shadow work. I know I haven't talked a ton about shadow work here, just because it's such a deep issue, a deep, complex topic to kind of dive into, so I'm really very surface level here mentioning it in passing. But if you've never heard of shadow work before, or you're not sure what it is, I wrote down this little definition for you that I totally snagged from one of my favorite Facebook groups slash Instagram people. Her name is Rogue Tradition. You can go check her out. But it says here that shadow work is a deep part of this is paraphrased. Some things I added here, but the essence is hers. Shadow work is a deep, fundamental spiritual practice that allows us to consciously explore our cultural and social programming in an attempt to acknowledge, understand, and thereby accept all parts of ourselves, so that we can then facilitate having an active role in our experience and make constructive changes to our life. I know, like I said, that's some pretty heavy stuff, but this is a great time of year to be doing shadow work. Because we're stuck inside, because we have all the snow, we're all snugged up inside under our blankets with our hot chocolates. This is the time to be doing that really internal, feminine, spiritual, raw work. But shadow aspects, I talk about the idea of like dealing with shadow aspects. Shadow aspects are sort of things about ourselves that we often, if you're not sure how to identify, like, what is a shadow? What do I work with? What does that mean? Shadow aspects are generally parts of yourselves that we are often, either deeply ashamed or very unhappy about. And a way that you can kind of find them beyond, the traditional ways of like doing guided meditations, is look at your life and sort of try to dissect out what things you see in other people that upset you the most. There's a sort of philosophy, for lack of a better word, in a lot of spiritual systems, that we are all mirrors of one another. That when you look at me, you're really seeing yourself reflected back at you. And we often tend to gravitate towards people that will mirror back the things that we need to see. And, for example, if you have, I'm trying to think of a good example, if you have someone in your life that all the time is saying like, oh yeah, we'll totally hang out and it'll be great, but then they never get back to you, and that really just grinds your gears and drives you up a wall, it might be that there's something there that has to do with one of your shadow aspects that you need to deal with. Maybe it's an abandonment issue. Maybe it's a trust issue. Maybe it has to do with being able to keep your own commitments, and you're seeing that kind of thrown back in your face and it makes you uncomfortable. So those are some ways that you can kind of pick out shadow aspects that you may or may not need or want to work with. And this is a great time of year to be doing it. And of course, like I said, guided meditations work too, and they can kind of help you discover and guide you through the practice as well. And if you're not comfortable or sure about doing shadow work on your own, it's usually you would go to a shaman, or sometimes there are some witches, I'm sure, that also offer it as a service to work with people and do things like soul retrieval and healing work that work with shadows. But it's definitely, I feel like spirituality as a whole is sort of like 97% or more maybe shadow work, because that's really the whole point of spirituality, is self-improvement and self-transformation, and shadow work is how we get there. Everything else is just sort of icing, and fun in a way, and kind of helps us get into ourselves so that we can discover all of the shadows to do the work. All right, so that's all I have for the mystery of moon magic today. If you're here watching, lovely. I'm so glad that you were here. This has been a really lovely topic to cover. Real quick, I'm going to do a little bit of a sign off, because usually what I do at this point, if I'm uploading it to YouTube, usually I don't include the part after this because it's kind of extra and nobody on YouTube really wants or needs to see it anyway. Hey, the Found Fashion. We just finished talking about the mystery of moon magic, but if you hang around for a few minutes longer here, I'm going to be doing a live sale and be offering free one-card readings for the first 6 people who ask for them. But I'm just doing a real quick sign-off, not for you guys, just so that I know where to cut the video off when I'm editing it after the fact to upload to YouTube. So if you're here watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video about the mystery of moon magic. If you have any comments, feel free to throw them into the comments below, and you will catch us again next week, where we will be talking about, we'll be doing a spotlight on offering magic. So I hope to see you guys then. Blessed be.